This is going to be my full film breakdown of one of my favorite films of all time, Star Wars Episode 6. Um, uh, Star Wars Why do I keep going to Empire? Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Okay, let's jump into it. So I think a fun nugget of kind of like that, the opening of like the whole Darth Vader arriving on the ship. That the in Empire, when you see Vader land on the ship, it's the same scene but like a different angle. So anyway, so Vader lands on the ship, talks to the I think it was General Nida, or Groff or something like that. But anyways, they talk, and they talk about the Emperor, and I think right off the bat you establish that Vader, who we've known to be such a menacing character for the first two films, they do it in a nice way where they don't just start off showing the Emperor, but they show Vader talking about that even the Emperor, even he's somewhat scared of the Emperor, or even that, because like the line of how was like talking about he's more forgiving than I am, and I think that line gives us as an audience member, because yes, the point is to talk to the captain about the menace that the Emperor is, but it gives as an audience member, it tells us that the Emperor is menacing and evil. To say what we thought was already a badass, menacing villain in Vader, to say that even he has an authority that's even more menacing than him, and you hear that from Vader's own words, kind of gives you right off the bat that already where it's like you don't have to show the Emperor, but you can kind of talk about him, because I think sometimes they do it nicely, where it's like sometimes when you just talk about how evil one character is from another character who is evil, or just one character talking to another character about a character who is evil and what they do, then as an audience member you don't have to, in this case they didn't show, they tell, but later they show, but by telling it early on in the film that the Emperor is so evil, it sets it up nicely where it's like you start to get the sense of this film is gonna be epic, that, and I think they don't give up that epic scope ever. And then obviously got the Tatooine stuff. 3PO and R2 go into the temple. Then they meet the Twi'lek and what's it called? The Gamorrean, the Gamorrean guards. Why did I forget what they're called? The pig. They're not the pig frogs. The pig guards. The Gamorrean guards. Yeah, and I feel like some people criticize like this opening sequence because it doesn't tie into the overall story, but in many ways it does. It ties in on a character level, where it's like where you kind of show where our heroes are at, and this mini story is so important to the overall story because it brings Han back into the fold, and because like. I think people would be more upset if all of a sudden they start this film and Han's there. So I think this opening sequence was very necessary, and it just gives us a lot of character depth into Luke being more of a Jedi, Leia and Han's love, on top of wrapping up the Jabba storyline, Boba Fett, having Lando be a hero in this kind of mini story, where I kind of enjoyed that you got like a film inside a film, but like. I feel like, again, I've talked about this before, but Star Wars is known for these opening sequences that I feel like, that don't have to deal with the Empire. Like, because like when you think of all three Star Wars films, you think of, usually the opening sequences don't always mainly focus on the overall story. They usually are these side missions. You think of Empire Strikes Back with Luke and the Wampa. That doesn't have to do with the Empire, but it has to do on a character level. Return of the Jedi, saving Han on a character level, and then New Hope. I mean, yes, the opening sequence, but I'm mainly talking about like the droids looking for Luke, and then you got think of, I think another good example is what's it called? Revenge of the Sith, saving the Chancellor and all that stuff. where I think all that stuff ties on in, like the Chancellor stuff in Revenge of the Sith ties on a character level, and I think this does it too. And plus, it's just a great opening sequence. So yeah, Luke has this master plan about the droids becoming slaves, particularly protocol droids for Jabba. And I mean, Jabba's a cool character. So anyways, Leia comes in her bounty hunter outfit, with Chewie, who gets thrown in prison. Jabba's such a cool character because he's like fat, he's obese, he's like a mobster leader. He's almost like the version of he's like the Italian mobster of the Star Wars universe. But he doesn't he has other people do it for him. He's the mastermind, but at the same time, he's the guy in charge, but he's not the guy who gets things done. And those types of people are the most menacing. Anyway, so Leia goes rescue Han, and I love the sequence where she just goes, and I just love seeing slowly Han goes from this, then his hand, then you see the red, and his hands start going like this, and you could see the red turn from more, you could see part of his mouth, part of his face, then you see his full body on this thing, then he collapses, and then, you see his, almost like a sweat, and almost like this weird kind of melt, maybe it's almost like that yellow stuff on his shirt, almost like as if the carbonite melted onto him, parts of it. But anyways, and he's he can't see, he's temporarily blind. Who is this? I can't see anything. Leia rips off her mouth and asks, someone who loves you. Kisses him. Jabba comes, ha 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 ha. I mean, because when you see the scene not knowing that Jabba comes at the end of the scene, you're like, isn't this too easy? And then you realize it's not too easy. And Luke, I'm sure Luke was plan B, But I always was interesting, what's the point of getting Chewie as a prisoner? I think the point of getting Chewie as a prisoner is bounty hunters can't just show up there, just show up to show up, I guess that's the point. Because they can't just show up to show up. You can't just walk in as a bounty hunter. Oh, I'm a bounty hunter, I belong. I guess they need some other reason. And maybe some reason to get Jabba to trust you. And that's kind of have Chewie as a backup plan. But also as someone who can help if worse comes to worse. Then Luke comes, chokes the Gamorrean guards. Tries to negotiate and use a Jedi mind trick on Jabba. That does not work on Jabba. Jabba talks to himself. The Rancor Pit scene. The Rancor Pit scene is so freaking good. 1983, no CGI, no effects. Well, it's still effects, but full on Rancor versus Luke. You got the iconic smashing of the door onto the face. Luke with the bone sticking into his mouth. You got the Rancor chomping on them Gamorrean guards. Gamorrean guards. And then Luke goes to try to get to the exit, and you could just see again slave Leia. It is crazy, but it's so true. I think he's just so menacing, Jabba. With having Leia used as a slave, who she really is. She really in this sequence is just a slave of Jabba's, and it's crazy. But it's but that just goes to how menacing Jabba is, where he doesn't have to. He's fat, he's obese, he speaks a different language, but he could still bring sense of menace to him. So Luke throws a rock. Rancor gets stabbed. Then the little that his owner, his trainer, or whatever, the guy who owns the Rancor, is so sad, and that got me. You would think oh, just be crying over the Rancor, it's just a monster, but then you see he has an actual connection to this guy. Oh yeah, I forgot a scene. Intentionally. Jedi Rock. First time we saw the Rancor. In this. Jeez, Jedi Rock. Special editions. Why? What does that add to the film? Showing Jedi Rock. I don't get it. CGI snide snoodles? The what? I think it's fine to have a sequence like that, but with the I think the point of that was mainly to have the Twi'lek, try to dope job and ultimately go to the Rancor pit. So that's when we really get first introduced to rancor so that we feel fearful when Luke ends up going into the pit. But you didn't have to add the Jedi Rock. You could have just said, who cares, and moved past that, only to ultimately come back to that. You didn't need to kind of, at any rate, cram in, stuff like, we need to have X, Y, and Z, aka this Twi'lek into the battle, whatever. I didn't care for that. Anyways, moving on from that. Luke kills the Rancor. Then Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, Lando, who Lando at the time was still disguising as a bounty hunter. Boba, Jabba, 3PO, R2, 3PO being a protocol droid. Jabba eats the frog, and they get sent out to the Sarlacc pit. And, I think, like, the Jabba's palace, what I love about the whole Jabba's palace thing, it's just the great world building. And I bring the comparison to that, to the Cantina. Where it's like Cantina in New Hope, we were already previously introduced to droids, Vader, Stormtroopers, Leia, Luke, and 3PO, and Jawas. But not the vast majority of species you really didn't see. And so you kind of go in the Cantina, you see all the species, and you're like, a wolf guy, a hammerhead, this species, that species, this species. It makes it feel more like Star Wars is not our world. It makes it feel more vast and more. And every time you introduce a new species, I feel like the Star Wars world gets bigger, and it does with this film. Seeing pirates in the film, seeing different Twi'leks, and even the people playing in the band. I know Jedi Rock is not that good. But even just seeing these different species, and then the surrounding and the parties and all these different species make it feel like this is a vast universe. And you kind of sometimes forget that, since we always focus on the Skywalker family and the Skywalker saga. But then when they expand it with these different, just cameos of just, not characters we know, but different species. And I think Jabba's Palace really does that. So anyways, the Sarlacc pit. So they go down to the Sarlacc pit. Then you got the iconic bum, bum. Used many times, where it's like, where Luke does like the whole to 3PO or to R2, who's on the barge. Jabba's barge, again, same thing. Leia still is his slave. But anyways, R2 opens like a hatch, because I was wondering, like, when you see it the first time, you're like, why didn't Luke just use the lightsaber? Well, he didn't have a lightsaber. He wanted to have it with R2, so that they would never really take. Because I feel like if Luke just walked in with the lightsaber, someone would confiscate it. Like, hey, you're not getting in here without your lightsaber. Let me have that. So instead, R2 has it. R2 opens the hatch, throws the lightsaber. I love the scene where Luke's on the end of the diving board, jumps onto it. Jumps on, does a 360, grabs onto the end of the diving board, flips up, grabs a lightsaber. It's green, which is crazy. They had to deleting a scene where Luke was building, but I like the green lightsaber. I think it's cool. It's cool to kind of change things up, because I feel like there wouldn't be. I think it's like a physical representation that, hey, not only did it and not only did he lose his hand, but remember, he lost his lightsaber, and we're gonna have consequences for that, aka new color to remind you. Shit did go down in the previous film. Anyways, Luke kills, boom, boom. I love the action sequence. Han trying to shoot, trying to save Lando. Boba Fett, where? Boba Fett goes, hits the barge, goes down. Obviously, I think it's a waste of Boba Fett in this film, as far as, like, you could have done better. But, he did wrap Luke up, then Luke had to get out. But, he is rumored to come back in Mandalorian Season 2, and it would be great to kind of have, and kind of bring him back into the Star Wars fold. Luke goes on to the barge. Again, this action sequence is just great, Great, iconic Star Wars action sequence with a bunch of different species. And I think it's just a change of pace when it comes to these action sequences, because it's always Rebels versus Empire, or Luke versus someone, or Han and the Millennium Falcon. So this is really like a change of pace for, like, these action sequences, where this doesn't involve the Empire. This doesn't involve a full bombardment, big battle. It just are rebel heroes. Lando, Han, Luke, Leia. in action and just iconic mini story within the greater universe. Then you got Luke. Luke gets shot in his arm. Boom, 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 boom. Lando has to get saved. The tentacles are coming up. Han shoots. And I love the line of, "I thought you can't see. I can see a lot better now." And then Lando screams, "Ah!" Tentacle cone bring Lando up. But like the ship's shaking at the same time. So like Pit's cool. It's really cool. I mean, they added in CGI like the mouth. I mean, I think the mouth was actually pretty crazy, but yeah. So anyways, Leia chokes Jabba, which I'm glad Leia gets the kill on Jabba, because I mean she deserves her revenge. I mean, for all this shit Jabba had to make Leia do as her slave in that outfit, whatever. Leia and Luke escape, and that's it for pretty much, I'd say, Act 1 of the film. Then you get into the whole Dagobah stuff. And when I watched this as a kid, I always fast forward this scene. Obviously, I've watched this film a million times fully, but I mean, when I was a kid, I had the DVD of it. I'd watch it in the car, and when it came up, I would always fast forward the Dagobah sequence because it was just so sad to see Yoda die. And it's not like he got stabbed. It's not like he got decapitated or anything. It's just a fan favorite character, It's a character because, again, it's one of those heroes that you're like, I don't want to see him die. Just the way he dies, where I guess it had made me scared how he like disintegrated. But like the whole banter between him and Luke was great, talking about like what Luke had to do, because I think it's a great character study of Luke in this film that is tackled of like, what do you do? Vader is such a menacing, evil person, but he's also your father. He's also family. He's also someone who you've always wanted a genuine father figure that Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru just never had, filled for Luke. And Yoda is such a wise character that Luke kind of, and I feel like Yoda had to come. I remember hearing a story that George kind of figured, George Lucas figured Yoda had to confirm that Vader was his father, because not a lot of kids would believe that and just think Vader's a liar. So instead he had to have Yoda, who is so wise, say it, which is true for like viewers, but also Luke needs that. Luke needs that the confirmation and the closure, And so it was just great in saying like, your father he is. There is another what? Skywalker. You can't die. 900 years old you'll be. Look as good as me. You will not. But yeah, the Yoda death sequence is so good because it just gives so much like depth to what happened in Empire with like, Luke being Vader's son, and just seeing like Yoda, who was just such a outlandish character, kind of feel sad because he's like old and coughing, and you don't want to see your little green puppet friend, die, and it was heartbreaking. I mean, because like just watching as a kid, you're like, he's like my first like hero who I really saw die in films, Yes, he's like a supporting character, but he still died, But then Obi-Wan and Luke talk. Who is this another one? He's your twin sister. And then Luke immediately said Leia, which I guess just hit the Force, kind of brought him out. That because it's like, oh, of course you're gonna assume the only Star Wars girl character, but at the same time, it's like, I think it's this idea of like the Force kind of brought them together, but also that the Force kind of told Luke in that moment that Leia was her sister. And I mean, Dagobah's a great location. I had talked about that before. And then Obi-Wan, and he says, what must I do? Because it's like Luke is conflicted. Do I go with my father, someone who a type of person I've always wanted to have, a father? But yes, he knows how evil and menacing he is. And then Obi-Wan says, you must face Vader, you must confront Vader again. And it's like, I love when he says, you must confront Vader, and then pauses, and then says again. And then Luke says, I cannot do that. I just can't. And Obi-Wan says, then the Emperor has already won. And I think that just plays so much into, again, another way they play so much into how powerful and how menacing and evil the Emperor is, and how honestly smart the Emperor is. And yet, the Emperor hasn't been physically on screen once this entire saga so far, at that moment. And smart because, like, that reveal of revealing Vader being his father is something that would really conflict Luke, because it's, instead of you're just facing the most evil person in the Empire who's done so much bad, you also have this idea of, like, he's family, and I think that confliction, you could very much tell he very much is, conflicted. And then ultimately leaves, goes to the whole mission. Then the whole Death Star 2 stuff. I never bothered me that the Empire would make another Death Star. It's like, oh, you're just rehashing the original. But that wouldn't make sense that the Empire would do that. Like, from a story standpoint, yes, it's convenient, but also from an Empire standpoint, it's convenient. Because it's not like, that's not pretend, like, the machine doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, when you watch Rogue One and you watch all this stuff, the Death Star can be very effective. Extremely effective. Yeah, it got blown up. But with all the safety protocols they have of a shield generator, and now it's even more in the middle, now it's even more protected. They still need to have a power generator, but there's a shield above it. The shield's on a different planet, so you can't just, do the whole tractor beam thing. So I think with all the safety precautions, it makes sense from an Empire standpoint that a second Death Star would be a good idea with all the safety precautions of the whole tractor beam, or not tractor beam, reactor beam. Luke joins the fold. But I kind of what I enjoy about this whole idea is it really is this final battle. Like, and Return of the Jedi is this final battle, but they don't rush over it. This mission is so critical, but they don't rush over it because they give a whole film dedicated to this moment, dedicated to this stand, the final chance for rebellion, final chance to stand up to the Empire. And Endor is a great planet. Ewoks are great. Like, everybody criticizes, the Empire won because of Ewoks. Ewoks destroyed the Empire. And, like, first of all, did the Ewoks single-handedly save the Empire? No. They contributed. But it's not, like, without their help, yes, the Rebels probably wouldn't have won. But without Lando blowing up the Death Star, Rebels would have not have won. Without Luke killing the Emperor, maybe they're killing the Emperor. Vader killing the Emperor. Rise of Skywalker. But without that happening, so it's like, yes, the Ewoks contributed, but Han contributed, Leia contributed. So they bet just as much of a case that you can make the Ewoks saving the Empire, you can make the case that Lando saved the Rebels. You can make the case that Han saved the Rebels. You can make the case that Leia saved, the rebellion. You can make the case that Chewie. So it's like, really just to make that, I feel like just people criticize that how can Ewoks defeat Stormtroopers? My thought process is, Stormtroopers are slaves, recruited. They're not skillful. I think the Empire's mindset is we take numbers over skill. You know what I mean? And I talked about their strategy of war in many ways, where their strategy for me, as far as what I've seen, is that their thought process and strategy has always been, we'll win by numbers, not skill. Their thought process is that. And I love that they established that in Rise of Skywalker, where it's like, where they said in Rise of Skywalker, they win by making you think you're alone. And that's their strategy, is we're going to outnumber them by stormtroopers who are not skillful, because I think the Empire's thought process is, okay, we'll have 1,000 stormtroopers, 10 of them might be actual soldiers, to go up against 100 real, legit rebel soldiers. So I think the thought process has always been, we'll have weak stormtroopers, but we'll have 1,000 of them, versus 100 skillful rebels. But if it's like a one-on-one between a stormtrooper and a rebel, rebels are always going to win. But if it's 1,000 unskillful stormtroopers against 100 trained rebels, stormtroopers on paper would win. So when the Ewoks come, who are skilled hunter and killers, everybody thinks, oh, they're cute, cuddly bears, which is they're that too. But it's like, remember, they set up a trap with food to catch their prey. In this case, Han, Chewie, and Luke. They capture their prey. Han, then instead of just killing them, no, you know what they do? They burn them and roast them alive. Remember, Han was stuck on that bamboo, fire under him. They're gonna roast Han, Luke, and Chewie alive. So not only are they gonna kill them, not only are they gonna, they're gonna kill Han, Chewie, and Luke, they're gonna roast them alive, literally burn them alive, and then eat them for dinner as if it was a feast. And then when they defeat the stormtroopers, they're gonna take their bodies, burn them alive, and then take their helmets and make a whole sing-along dance. They're scavengers. You think they get a feast all the time? They kill people. They have swords. They have spears. They're hunters and killers. They have the appeal and look of cuddly teddy bears, but they're hunters and killers. They were gonna, because if it wasn't for Luke having the Force, Luke would be Thanksgiving dinner in Ewoks. So I mean, your argument is, oh, they knocked them out with stones. Remember, these are not, the stormtroopers are weak. You can make that criticism in any film, in any Star Wars film. And then, oh, how do they defeat? And it's like, it's also not that they. And I love the metaphor of Ewoks. Of Ewoks are the underdogs, and stormtroopers in the Empire are overdogs. David versus Goliath, in some sorts, where it's like, I think George Lucas's mindset was, this is gonna be our chapter. The whole idea of rebels versus Empire is underdog versus overdog. So we're gonna have a species join the battle, but they're gonna be underdogs. They're gonna be someone who gets judged. And I think the story of kind of having that overdog story has been present throughout all these films and done just as great in this film. So yeah, and then so obviously they go to Endor. Then they have the whole speeder bike chase, which is great. You know, to be able to do this in the 1980s with, like, I've read some of the special effects where it's like, it's great. And there's no sound. I love that there's no score during this scene, because it makes it feel more real. Because with their sound, it's the speeder bikes, and you see, you know, first person point of views of the stormtroopers, first person point of view of the Luke and Leia, and then Leia goes in the speeder and then destroys. Then I love, like, the big crashes and the explosions and the trees. Redwood Forest is a great location, because it's good, because, like, you can have a planet, a foresty planet, and have it film in California where they don't have to, you know, make so much stuff. And I think Ewoks are great. I've just talked about it, but yeah. So anyways, the speeder bike chase is always a standout for me. You know, obviously I think the best is, like, those space battles and the throne room, but yeah, it's still a standout. So anyways, we just talked about it. Han, Luke, Chewie, R2 and 3PO get captured. Leia meets with Wicket. Wicket takes her back to the hut. Luke uses the Force to make 3PO seem like a deity, whatever. Let's see. And then Luke and Leia talk on the bridge, and you know, that was great. The conversation was great, where it's like, do you remember anything about your mother? Because I mean, they really haven't touched, prior to this point, they haven't touched upon the mother. They've always talked about the father, and I think that is a good thing to bring up. Who's the mother? And they talked about the beauty. And I guess many people are thinking, like, how would Leia remember? I guess maybe she's just, like, that image of her. Like, because sometimes when you only see your parents once, ever, maybe you just remember that deeply, because it's like, that's who your mother is. That's who you're so strongly connected to. So, yeah, I mean, it never bothered me. And then they said, The Force runs strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My father has it. My sister has it too. Leia, you have that power too. Just a great line. It never bothered me that there were twins. I don't like the whole kiss thing, but I talked about that in The Empire Strikes Back, full film breakdown, so you can watch that. Came out, a few weeks ago. Actually 2 weeks from today. But anyways, so to move on, to kind of move forward from this, Luke goes, and I love all the confrontations between Vader and Luke. Where like Luke is so willing to want Vader to come back to the light, because I think Luke's thought process is he's never gonna give up on Vader, and I think you could just see throughout this whole film, especially this conversation between Vader and Luke, you could already tell it's not sudden when Vader switches from light to dark or dark to light, because you could tell in this conversation Vader's conflicted. You could see sense of Anakin Skywalker in their confrontation, where it's like, it's too late for me, son. The Emperor will find a new meaning of the Force, of the dark side, or something like that, and I think Vader always referring to him as son. Vader saying, it's too late for me, son. And stuff like that. You can't save me now. And stuff like that. You could, just those little hints of Anakin still being in there. Anakin, or I keep calling him Anakin. Vader. I mean, yes, he's Anakin, but like in this moment, I kind of define Anakin and Vader as very much two different characters. But anyways, Vader ignites Luke's saber. Luke kind of looks at him. And again, Luke keeps pushing in this idea of, come on, the light needs you. I can still sense the Anakin in him. Then they go to the throne room. Anyway, so the final battle begins. Wicket and Leia and Han are kind of scouting things because they see the the base, and they need to kind of figure out a way to get to the base, right? So then the Ewok goes on the speeder, and some stormtroopers fall, and it's not like these Ewoks are that talented either. Like the Ewok is spinning on the speeder. He's not good at the speeder, and he had to jump off in order to keep him alive. So it's not like he was any more skillful at the speeders than the scout troopers. So anyways, Han, Leia, and Wicket go down. Han tap. So now there's down to one scout trooper blocking the area. Or Chewie's there too. But anyways, Han taps on the shoulder. Scout trooper turns around. There's a whole battalion of rebels there. And one of them has like the white beard, who people say is Rex, which is a cool idea of that, having that be Rex. So anyways, so they go on the base. Han, Chewie, Leia, and some rebels. They go on, blast down some of the. They don't blast down, but because they have more numbers, they capture all the people inside the station. Because remember, there's the shield generator on top of. Remember the whole plan, and I think why I kind of love this final battle so much is every piece of the puzzle has to work. Where it's like, right, the plan is to blow up the Death Star, right? And you got this idea of, you got the Death Star, but you can't blow it up quite yet because there's a shield generator around it. In order to turn off the shield generator, which is coming from Endor, the second moon of Endor, inside the base. So you have to so Han, Leia, and Chewie have to turn off the shield generator. By turning off the shield generator, then the Starfleet will have to blow up the Death Star, right? So, anyways, so then Han, Leia, and Chewie get captured, go out in the open of Endor with a bunch of stormtroopers. Then the Ewoks come, and I think in this it was a surprise attack. So by nature of a surprise attack, the stormtroopers are not prepared. So in and of itself, I mean, you got stormtroopers are already on the lower end of the spectrum, to be honest. And like they throw the stuff, and again, it's not like these Ewoks are so much stronger than stormtroopers. Wicket, when he's trying to throw the rock nunchuck, it hits him in the face. You see the stormtrooper on the glider gets shot down. You see that horrendous, sad the sequence where the Ewok gets shot at. One gets up and the other one doesn't, and he's like tugging on him and he's dead. You see, and there show some shots of these stormtroopers killing these Ewoks. But don't forget that the Ewoks, again, like we previously said, are hunters and killers. And as far as like them defeating the AT-ATs, remember, they threw out the rope to try to trip the ST-STs, and it doesn't work. Again, they're not, all Mary Sue Ewoks or whatever. They have flaws. They can't beat the ST-STs, but they do using ingenuity, using your brain. They don't go hand to hand with the ST-ST or hand to hand with an Ewok, with a stormtrooper. No, they use spears. They use rocks. They use a surprise attack. And when it comes to the ST-STs, they break them with Home Alone tricks. In many ways, where it's like one Ewok they beat by putting what's it called, logs underneath his feet to trip him, and then throw rocks on top of the ST-STs until it explodes. And the one the ST-ST's walking right, and then on either sides of him, like pretend my face is the ST-ST. Then they have two logs on either side. So when the ST-ST is walking forward, they cut the logs on both sides, hits them in the face, and a big explosion. They didn't go once again, they don't go hand to hand with any of these Ewoks or ST-STs. They win by what I'd like to call as ingenuity and brain power of kind of using this idea of wits and outwitting these stormtroopers and ST-STs, where they don't hand-to-hand fight them, but they use other tactics. Han, Leia, and Chewie start working to open the what's it called, the reactor and whatever. They call R2 and 3PO over to help them out. And this will be it for part 1 of me breaking down my full film breakdown of Return of the Jedi. Stay tuned for more videos coming at you.